Why? Because God will show Ephraim that Yehuda's intention is really for the sake of heaven, not for his own pleasure. Then there will be peace between them. Now,
Does Meshach ever give criteria for what defines a situation of Esav Lashem? In any way.
okay. Let me say. I mentioned. You know, I'm not gonna. I can't really take questions just because we have all these texts to do, and we're just not gonna have time to do them. I was gonna. So let me just say this one thing. I will say this thing. It's a valid question. I mentioned earlier that the Meshach, by and large, doesn't give examples today of what you can practically do with this. He does give analysis of how you can try to decipher and discern whether or not you really fit into this category, but he doesn't give very specifics about what it would be. He leaves that totally like a mystery. But the one thing he does say is, he says, for example, the seer of Lublin, I mentioned before, when it came to tefillah, when it came to davening, he saw that the time of tefillah, even though that's the halacha, when exactly you're supposed to pray at a certain time, by a certain time. And he saw that that was the law and the spirit of what davening should be about were not meshed. So he said, break the law. Daven later if you need to. You know, extend your davening. He didn't mean you should just wake up at 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon and daven, but he meant that if that's what it took to get a good davening in, that's what you have to do. You know, the Meshach does give you suggestions. One of the things he says, you have to be very careful. If you get pleasure out of something, you're usually not going to be a non-biased observer about whether or not this is about God. It's probably about you. That's one of the things he does say. And he goes through a whole process. The next text is one of those texts. Again, I will not say this is the best text to answer your question or to show you how to find that criteria. It's one of about 20 texts that he has, maybe even more, that I'm familiar with, that gives advice about kind of going through a process of looking at yourself when it comes to some desire that you have and trying to decipher it and how to deal with it. So the next text is, and I actually gave some of this over on Shabbos a couple of weeks ago. It's cut off a little bit on the bottom, so I'm going to read it for you. It's on the bottom of the first paragraph on the bottom. You see it where it's cut. Does everybody see this right here?
What page is it? The next page?
The next page is Vayigash. Don't even bother looking inside because it's cut off. You're going to get frustrated. You'll look inside. I'll tell you when you should look in. Isa b'Gemara, the Gemara says in Brachos, Amar Reb Levi bar Chama, Amar Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Reb Levi says, Reb Shimon, La'olam yargis adam yetzer tov yitzhar. You should always anger your good side, your yetzer tov, to get angry against your yetzer hara, your evil inclination. Shadama rubs about the throw, as the verse says, rage rather than sin. And natzchu mutav, if you win over your negative inclination, great. But in lav yasab if you don't, what do you do then? Study Torah. Shadama imru b'lvavchem, as the verse continues, say in your hearts. In nitzchu mutav, if you are victorious and win out, good. In lav yikra krishma, if you can't, say the Shema. Shadamar ba'al mishkafim, like it says on your bed, which is when you read the Shema, the Shachvacha. If that's not enough to get you to overcome your Yetzer Hara, your inclination, then remember the day of death. So speak still, which is forever. Eternal stillness is death. Now, look inside if you want to follow along. It's in the top of the second paragraph. Masha Amar and Levi Bachama. Lashon Lo'olam Yargis. This terminology, you should always have this anger against your Yetzer Hara. Ki Lo'olam Hainu B'chol Inyanim She'avar Al Adam. That means all things that transpire and pass over a person. V'af B'inyanim Madregos Gedolos. Even with big things. Tzarech Tamad L'Hafkum L'var B'Rurin Imhu Mashem Yisrael. You always constantly have to test and check and clarify if it's really God. Or perhaps there's a tinge or a part of some ego, some just personal gain. And this goes for Averos and Mitzvos. What do I mean Averos and Mitzvos? Either when it comes, when you feel a strong attraction to do something which isn't considered right, or when you think you're doing a mitzvah but you feel like, I'm doing a mitzvah, again, the ego. Is it you, or is it the mitzvah that you really should be? How do you get to whether it's you or the mitzvah? So this is what he says. Particularly in the time of simcha. You need to really delve into seeing whether or not this is coming from a pure place. That's why it mentions here by Yaakov realizing that Yosef is alive, 4 levels. It's really a teaching tool for everybody. How to perceive, to test, to check the true depth of what is. Then, if once you know clearly that this is from God, then you can let yourself go. You can go. You don't have to guard yourself and do whatever it is. And know that this is in fact a mitzvah thing, or simple mitzvah, or the joy of a mitzvah. When something transpires that needs to be in this clarification, a worldly thing. The Gemara that we just read in Brachos gives you these 4 classifications of their methodologies of meditating on a given situation in your life to get to the bottom of whether or not this is coming from any divine place and can be included into your spiritual being rather than just your ego-based being. What's Habir Arishon? The first clarification that you need to make is getting your Yetzer Tov angry. I'm sorry, your good inclination upset on your bad inclination. What does that mean? Shiyasik is chamdaso. First, you have to cool off your chemda. Chemda means your desire. You have a desire for something. It doesn't matter what it is. You have a desire for a sandwich. You have a desire to go tell somebody something. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you have a desire for something, so eat it, okay. But the desires that they build and then they build. It could be a desire of a job that you want to attain, or a career that you want. It could be many things. It could be who to date. It could be how you think of yourself on a given day after getting an award or something. Now, they're all different. I'm not trying to say they're the same, but this process can be used for any one of those things. So the first thing to do is try to cool off that intensity of want, of longing for that thing. When you place upon your heart, take the long view. This desire, let's say it's for a physical thing. Let's say it's you want to go to a spa, get a massage, and be pampered. Say, is this good or bad? Do I need this? Okay, it's good. Well, first of all, think after 120 years, I'm not going to feel anything. Or maybe say, well, I'm not going to get the 120 if I don't get this now. I need, maybe that's what you need. The spa is a bad example, but you get my drill. We have 70 years, 80 years.